We may know very soon just what happened in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963, and I am thrilled. I have been obsessed with this case for basically my entire life. President Trump is going to release previously concealed and confidential documents. All of it fascinates me. That Zapruder tape and Clint Hill, the Secret Service agent, jumping on the back. The Warren Commission, you know, I read it back when I was in the 6th grade, the Warren Commission report, and I've read it a few times since. I was naive, and for a big chunk of my life, I believed that thing. Yep, I believed the official story until about 3 or 4 years ago. After Russia collusion, after a few other things that happened, I'm like, yeah, the government sure does lie a lot, don't they? President Trump is turning over classified material, privileged material, all kinds of things the government has under lock and key, and he's going to let every single one of us see it. He did it today by executive order.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades. And everything will be revealed.
It's awesome. And it was a promise made and a promise kept. Not only JFK, but did you hear that? RFK and Martin Luther King as well. The executive order that he just signed right there reads in part, the files will be released. Let's go through it, please. The executive order states, oh, there's the big front of it, right? Great big headline, declassification of records concerning the assassinations. What does it say inside? May we? Here we go. Their families and the American people deserve transparency and truth. It is in the national interest to finally release all records related to these assassinations without delay. Next, please. I have now determined that the continued redaction and withholding of information from records pertaining to the assassination of President Kennedy is not consistent with the public interest, and the release of these records is long overdue. I'm excited. I really am. What was the excuse for keeping this stuff classified? It didn't actually make sense to President Trump. Oswald, he may have been involved. He may have been there, but I don't think he was the only one. Do you? He said it the night he was arrested.
Back up, man.
Come on, man.
No, they're taking me in because of the fact that I lived in the Soviet Union. I'm just a patsy.
Just a patsy, kind of a fall guy. And you see all those people around him? Did they want him to get killed? Yeah, they did. And it happened soon thereafter.
He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's the man with a gun. It's absolute panic. Absolute panic here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters. Detectives have their guns drawn. Oswald has been shot.
Well, they didn't get him in the hallway the night before, so they arranged it so they'd get him in the parking lot the next day, the moment that he's shot and killed. You know, believe it or not, though, compared to back then, as many holes in security as documented in the Zapruder film and all kinds of other places, they pale in comparison to what happened to President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. It's insane. I mean, Dallas security was totally buttoned up compared to what happened in Butler. For instance, there was a guy running around on the roof for minutes before he was shot. Nobody was tasked with actually watching that roof. Can you believe that one? So let's imagine that Lee Harvey Oswald was running around for an hour and a half before he shot Kennedy, and local cops were talking about him, and that didn't happen. It's amazing. Actually, this is a cool piece of footage. It's about 30 years old. They blew up not the Zapruder film, but a film made by Richard Hughes, who was also in Dealey Plaza that day. Take a look.
This film, shot by amateur cameraman Robert Hughes, shows the presidential motorcade approaching Dealey Plaza. Hughes stops filming for a few seconds and then starts again just as the limousine passes in front of the depository. Frontline had this footage scientifically enhanced to see if a second man could be seen on the 6th floor.
On the Hughes film, there are a lot of things to see, and on the 5th floor in particular, we see an employee of the book depository raise his right arm right there as he waves to the motorcade passing just under the building. Now we move to the 6th floor, and we observe in the arched window that is adjacent to the sniper's nest a form that some people have said is human-like in appearance. And when we ran the enhanced film in motion, that human form disappears, and we conclude there is no human form in that window. We do also conclude that there is movement in the 6th floor corner window.
It's interesting. Movement in the 6th floor corner window. They think that's Oswald. I don't know. He was probably there, but there's so much more to this story. And you think about that. 30 years later, they were able to figure maybe Oswald was, in fact, on the 6th floor with computer enhancement. What was the excuse for missing Copenhagen again on July 13th? There's no excuse. The crazy thing is this. Secret Service agents, even Clint Hill himself, the agent who jumped on the back of the limo, they felt guilty for years that they didn't react quicker. We're talking seconds. It took him seconds to figure out what was going on. Two and a half. And he sprang into action immediately. Compare that to July 13th. So the JFK documents, I think this is immediate. JFK, November 22nd, 1963. It's interesting. Donald Trump was 17 years old when that happened, and he's the man to reveal possibly the truth to all of us. All right, next, please. Have you seen these numbers from ICE? They're allowed to do their job now. 538 arrests, 373 detainers lodged. Look, they're looking for illegal aliens, criminals who are here in America. This is day one, and it's off to a great start. Here they are up in Boston, and these are federal agents allowed finally to do their job. They are looking for illegal alien criminals, those with serious criminal records, murder, rape, you name it. These guys, well, some of them have done it. The first footage was from Boston. I'm not sure where this is from, but you know what's kind of cool? This is a deterrent effect. The rest of the world will see this. They're going to find out that you get arrested here, especially if you have a criminal record, and if you come in illegally, that's next. That is a deterrent. Compare that to what Kamala Harris said, right? Aggressive ICE, that's going to make people stay home. Kamala basically invited people to come, even though she said don't come.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come.
How about that, huh? And they still came. They still came. She wanted them to come. Democrats wanted them to come. They didn't want a border. They wanted all these people. They still want these people to vote in a certain way. So far, so good, though. It is working, and the numbers are going to grow. You will hear the normal complaints from the normal people, the usual suspects, I should say, about what's happening here.
Pastor Emma Lozano runs a Methodist church in Chicago that used to provide sanctuary for migrants facing deportation. But now she's worried that it could make her church a target for ICE.
ICE being able to carry out deportations at churches or schools or hospitals, there is disapproval on that one.
If you move to, we are going to rescind the Biden rules that now allow ICE to go into churches and schools and rip a 6th grade girl away from her dad, and now they're separated and neither one of them know what their future holds.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to go down, right? No, they're just the fear-mongering. And it's very rare, but you can't have any place be a safe harbor because then the illegals would go there. Illegal criminals would go there. And, oh, by the way, it's true that criminals do show up in church sometimes, in schools, in hospitals. BTK, the BTK killer, remember him, Dennis Rader? He was the president of this church. He was writing nasty letters to the newspaper about his deeds from the church. He was a volunteer, and he had a computer in the office. That's how they found him. Happens all the time. Serial killers, a lot of them are churchgoers. I don't know why that is, but it is. Have you ever heard of this guy? Neither have I, Peter Tobin, but I'm told he's a very bad dude, and he killed a lot of people. All right. Now, January 6th. We got some good news, folks. I've always wanted to know what really happened there, right? You too. Well, the January 6th committees, the phony baloney committees, Liz Cheney and the rest, they just wanted to try to tarnish MAGA and tarnish Trump. There is a new congressional J6 committee. The chairman will be Congressman Barry Loudermilk, and their mission is to uncover the whole truth. That is amazing. I am, as you know, really obsessed with this because I believe that this was a setup, an effort to cancel a president and a political movement, his supporters, us. Didn't work, did it? Here's just a small example, actually, and the January 6th committee threw out evidence. That's got to be illegal. Here's an example of evidence that was presented, and I'll tell you how they actually threw it out. Take a look.
President Trump's own White House counsel, Pat Cipollone, also recognized that this plan was unlawful. Here is Mr. Cipollone's testimony.
My view is that the vice president didn't have the legal authority to do anything except what he did.
There is no doubt that President Trump's pressure campaign on Vice President Pence was significant.
All right, so here's the thing. Pat Cipollone, that was a soundbite, right? They only had him speak for a couple of seconds. What did he say before and after? They threw away the video. There is no video of that. But it existed, but they threw it away. Why did they do that? That's the evidence. That is evidence that they threw away. How about this one? They bring in a cop who was basically a half mile away from Trump on January 6th to try to figure out what President Trump was doing.
Here's how Sergeant Robinson remembered the exchange.
Was there any description of what was occurring in the car?
No, the only description I received was that the president was upset and that he was adamant about going to discussion about that.
And when you say heated, is that your word or is that the word that was described by the TS agent?
No, word described by the TS agent, meaning that the president was upset and he was saying there was a heated argument or discussion about going to the Capitol.
Like other witnesses, Sergeant Robinson also testified that he was aware that individuals in the crowd were armed.
All right, so they threw away his videotape as well, Sergeant Robinson, right? And they picked these people, oh, by the way, not because of what they saw. That guy didn't see anything. He overheard something on the radio because of how they looked, right? Sympathetic figures. This is how liberals and this is how corrupt people think. We will take an African-American driver because that will be harder for white Republicans who question this stuff. We don't think like that. They do. Certainly had no impact on me. That's one of the reasons why they... Oh, can I show you where this guy was? On the day in question, they talked to the cop in the front car about what he heard over the radio, what President Trump was doing. President Trump is about a quarter mile behind him. Why would they do that? Why would they pick Cassidy Hutchinson? Cassidy, why? Because she looked okay. Because she looked a certain way. We have that Cassidy Hutchinson. Remember when she came in with the white suit and all that stuff? It's all optics and it's all fake. And we're finally going to get the truth, not only from JFK, but this January 6th committee. And oh, by the way, Republicans, I believe, have to toughen up when they are asked about some of these guys wounded cops. There's a lot to say about that. The whole damn thing was a setup. You got to remember that. They were brought there. This was designed. They wanted them to punch the cops. Take a look at this.
I do have an issue with those who assaulted police officers, and I think that those do need to serve the time.
I find it hard to believe that the President of the United States or you would look at facts that were used to convict an intemperate moment.
I haven't seen all the stuff, the EOs that he signed yet, so we said all along that Biden opened the door on this, and so...
running away or just going with what the media wants. Nobody wants to talk about the violent acts initiated by police against a peaceably assembled crowd of people, throwing stun grenades and tear gas when people weren't doing much of anything. They weren't rushing the cops. And we have this footage. We have this evidence. This actually exists. And you can see that it was totally misused. They didn't warn anybody ahead of time. They were looking for a fight. And these people have spent already a long time.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.